works.
And there's the camera right there.
Yep.
Hey guys, so I'm here. Let me check this a little bit here, but we're live, so hopefully you guys. Oh look, my 25th broadcast with you. Hey, I just got this pop up on the Facebook Live, and it says, "Congrats, this is your 25th broadcast." I didn't know that.
It's a Hallmark moment.
It is a Hallmark moment. Okay, guys. So I know some of you are not going to be able to watch it.
It's
because
a lipstick moment.
It is a lipstick moment.
Not me, Anita.
So some of you are not going to be able to. Hey, Miranda. Miranda is my niece.
Hi, Miranda.
She has lots of fun lipstick stories.
Awesome.
She's at college right now and is just starting this business herself.
Oh, good.
So,
Good.
Miranda, thanks
Miranda.
for coming.
I have no lipstick stories.
But there is product that guys can use. So,
Okay.
But we'll take care of you on that.
All right.
All right. So I know some of you guys are not going to be able to watch right now live, but hopefully this video will be shared with you, or you can watch tonight when you get off of work and what have you. So we'll just get going on this. But
okay.
As you all know, this was my launch month. This was my launch month of Synogens, selling Synogens and being a distributor of it. And I wanted to start my month out in this journey of lip color and skincare and whatever, giving back to somebody who I believe in. Russ Tuttle is one of the guys who has supported me in my film endeavors. I did my most recent film that I produced and I directed was called A Dangerous Profession. We're up for 4 awards this coming weekend.
So awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, and so Russ and his organization and some other Kansas City projects have been very supportive. It's kind of really cool how everybody has got their lane and we're all trying to figure out how to help each other out and what have you. And so
you're even starting to talk like me now.
I am?
You talk about using your lane.
Using your lane. Yeah.
Your lane.
Yeah, and so my lane is kind of this journey of entertainment, and now it's lip color and all this other stuff. So I wanted to I come up with a slogan to help make a long-lasting lip color, make a long-lasting impression on youth. And so the way that I decided to do that was to find an organization that deals specifically with youth, and how Russ Tuttle is one of those guys who is trying to make a long-lasting impression and impact to change the culture of what's going on in social media when it comes to how they're doing social media and what kind of apps and what have you. So yeah. Russ conducts school assemblies. He does basic ones on up to very, very elaborate school assemblies. And originally when I started this, I was going to give him 10%, and I realized, wow, 10% of what I'm going to make probably in my first month isn't going to be very much. So I just made a commitment, and I shared with all of you ladies how that I was just going to make a commitment to just give him the basic to get a school assembly done, which is $250. So I'm giving him $250. Thank you, ladies, for your lip color and skincare and all of this that you have purchased to help me make this happen. It's so exciting to be able to watch how a long-lasting lip color and skincare line can make a long-lasting impression on youth. So, before we get started, to tell the ladies kind of what you do, you are going to be the drawer of the award.
Okay.
So these are all the ladies who have been a part of the process. Can you see that? There's all those. So Russ is going to draw the winner, and let's see who
deep to the bottom.
Let's see who wins this little coffee cup. It's my big yellow smile coffee cup and yellow. It's Melody Cox.
Melody, congratulations.
Cox, look at you.
Congratulations.
Are we too loud?
Come photo
Melody
bomb
Cox,
September.
Congratulations, Melody.
And it just so happens that September Triple is here. September is with another organization. And hey, and I just met.
Hello, how are you? You need to get some of that lipstick. Good.
Okay, so these two ladies, September and
Denise Lester.
Denise Lester, both of them. I don't know if you can see.
Don't knock
Come
the
on
glass off
in
the
here,
table.
September.
Yeah, okay, so everybody huddle in.
September.
They are part. It
One-eyed
just so
September.
happens. Isn't this so cool? We walk
With
in.
no lipstick. I need lipstick, Anita. Let's fix me up.
And I will fix them up. But both of these ladies actually are part of organization for Kansas City, really combating trafficking and getting, these young women who are caught in an industry that they can't get out of. We're talking about, prostitution and some of these industries, some of the lifestyles that these women are stuck in that need help getting out. And so it is so amazing. I'm just so excited because I got here this morning ready to meet with Russ, and there's September Tribble. She's a part of this group, aren't you?
Yeah.
She photobombs everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they walk in. Oh my goodness. So isn't this so fun? You guys get you got 2 bonuses, Russ, and then 2 bonuses.
There you go.
Yeah, so definitely look them up. And when I post the video, you can, I'll have September write a little blurb maybe about what
great.
she does.
Yeah.
On here, and it's, if you go to the Facebook group, I'm
Yes.
doing this live on Anita's Lips
good.
and Beauty Tips, and
Great.
then I can forward it or share
Okay,
it or whatever.
so Restoration House Casey on Facebook. Find us there.
And Rented Heart House on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh, so Melody, you won the prize.
Congratulations,
and,
Melody.
So you got this
Congratulations.
little lip color. Whoops, where's the camera? There it is. There's the lip color. And you get my little Big Yellow Smile coffee cup that I got. And you got some makeup brushes. So,
I thought
congratulations.
those were paintbrushes. Kidding.
You are paint. So, Russ, let's just talk a little bit about now tell the ladies kind of what you, hi Esther. Let's see, let's talk about some of the stuff that you do and share with the ladies what they contributed to.
Yeah, so what you've given to, thank you so much, is you are helping us educate and empower students to be safer regarding the lines and the role that social media plays in domestic minor sex trafficking. So we have been blessed to speak to just over 3,000 students since January this year.
Wow. And 17,000 total, right?
We're closing in on 20,000.
Wow,
total.
just in Kansas City area.
Just Kansas City
Wow.
area, yeah. In the last almost 2 years, not
Wow.
quite 2 years. So, and what we're finding, and the reason why we're putting such an emphasis on speaking with students is because they are sadly a target to become product in this high demand business that we call domestic minor sex trafficking.
And when you say students, we're talking about young
minors. We're talking minors under the age of 18, where on a national level, they say that the average desired age of entry into domestic minor sex trafficking, they're targeting kids that are on average 12 years old. So we are actually even doing presentations now in some elementary schools because they're finding now that the average age where kids are engaging in what they would call sexting, where they're taking their clothes off, taking pictures of themselves, sending them, including to adults, is 5th grade.
So crazy.
So when we realized that demand is actually really high in the greater Kansas City area for this issue, there was a study conducted by Arizona State University where they found that at any given time in a research that they did in 2013, they ran decoy ads online advertising people to be sold as slaves to sex, and they found 14.5% of the male population over the age of 18 was online looking to do exactly that. So it speaks to the demand issue. And so what we have to do then is we have to educate and empower students about this reality. And so that's really what we're actively doing. And so and it goes way further beyond that as well, because just last week I did 4 assemblies, about 700 students on a Tuesday, and had several students fill out surveys indicating that they have met a complete stranger in person after they first met them online, and or are actively sending nudes of themselves to strangers, and a lot of times adults. So those become two extremely concerning issues that we have to deal with and educate students about why that's not appropriate. So that was on a Tuesday. Then the very next day I was educating a Grand Families organization where grandparents find themselves now in the position of having to take on raising their grandkids. So some of them are doing that as foster care, some of them are doing it as they've adopted them, some of them are legal guardians, anywhere that combo applies. And so now you've got this generation of grandparents raising grandkids who are very active on social media. The grandparents are trying to figure out how to run the TV remote. So there's a generational gap. So trying to educate them, all with the purpose of keeping their kids safe, because they're telling me about all the things that their grandkids that are in their home now are engaged in.
Yeah.
Then the next day into a very private Catholic school where they were very afraid because our very sheltered kids, well, guess what we found in that private Catholic school? That 98% of the kids in the school were active on social media, and 31% of those kids had either met a complete stranger in person after first meeting them online and or sending nudes of themselves. Then the very next day, did a professional training 2 hours for law enforcement officers, healthcare providers, mental health associates, educators, and church leaders, all in the same setting, all with the same purpose of trying to help keep students safe. And so that's really what we're about, really what we're doing. So,
Wow.
so the strategy. So what you've given to with this check is the strategy is called Aware KC. And it is where we go, and we primarily work to educate and empower students to be safer, and then we educate and empower adults to move them from awareness of the issue to actually doing something, right? Contributing, doing something tangible that helps the effort move forward. So this week, I will spend Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at a local high school all day. Educating, empowering students to be safer on their campus.
Mm-hmm. And Russ, you've given your life for this.
I've been doing this since about 2009,
Yeah, he's given his life for this, and I've been so blessed to be a part of this community of really trying to combat and educate the public of what social media is doing to our youth. It's interesting because, yes, we fostered, and one of our little foster guys was 8 years old, and he went to school and came home and talked about how that some of his classmates at the age of 8 already had smartphones.
Right.
And so the 12 years old is probably the target because they're not new at social media. They are already in the apps, they're already searching for stuff, they're already getting involved in some of these group chats, they're already getting involved in, really becoming social media savvy per se, so which is what you're talking about. So that means that us as parents have to be so careful of what we allow our children to be part of. So my son, who's 12, he just got his own phone, but I feel like we're very strict on some of the usages and stuff, but even just the thought of some of the stuff that the parents allow their children to do, and then they're so clueless, they're just so clueless. So, and just to be honest with you, and if any of you guys have any questions for Russ while we're on, I know there's some people online. Hi, Elizabeth. If there's anybody who has any questions for Russ while I've got him here, he does speaking engagements all over. He has goes to school assemblies. I mean, it is quite an honor to have him sitting right here, being able to just hear his heart and just share with him. So if you have any questions or concerns or how to combat or anything, just post them on here and we'll try and get to them.
Well, and I have to tell a story because of the whole lipstick thing.
The lipstick thing,
Right?
yes.
Because
Get this. This is so exciting.
So this is so it's a tragic, sad story, but there's humor in it too. And honestly, it's important to use humor as much as possible in this horrific thing that we're talking about. So a 12-year-old girl came to me last year, and after we were kind of following through the process of a presentation, she came to me and she said she was really touched by what I was talking about and how to properly navigate through social media as a very young student. And so this 12-year-old girl comes to me and she says, I have to tell you, she says, this boy was asking me for a hot pic. So she said, and I said, well, what did you do? And she said, well, I sent it to him. And I was so disappointed, but I couldn't let that show. And I said, well, that probably wasn't the wisest choice. She's like, no, don't worry. She said, I'm going to show you what I said. No, don't show me. She said, no, I promise. You're going to like what I did. It's nothing bad. So what this 12-year-old girl did was she took a picture after this boy is continually, I mean, he was actually very aggressive in asking for this hot pick. And so she says, here's what I did. I took a hot piece of pizza out of the box with the steam coming off it. And she showed me this picture of this hot piece of pepperoni pizza with the steam coming off. Takes a picture, sends it to the boy, and then says, I'm going to tell every single adult I know that you've been asking me for this hot pick. Okay, so I was in the school telling this story. The 6th grade girl hears
about
me
the pizza.
About the pizza. So a 6th grade girl hears me tell this story a year ago. I was in the same school 3 weeks ago on a Tuesday. And this girl comes to me at the end of the 7th grade assembly. So she is another girl comes to me and she says, do you remember when you were here at our school last year and you told the story about this 12-year-old girl and then she sent the hot picture and she said, I've been having an 8th grade boy in my school and 2 men asking me to send them nudes. She said, so guess what I did? Based on your story and from what I heard another 12-year-old girl did, here's what I did. So she took the nude color of lipstick.
Which LipSense has the nude color.
Lipstick has the nude color.
Right.
I mean, how perfect is it? So she took a black velvet cloth and she laid them out in a fan shape on this black velvet cloth, and then at the top she made it into a shape of a cross. So here's this fan shape underneath and the shape of a cross, and she took a picture of it, which she showed me, and then she showed me the text conversation with this boy where she sent that and said, here's your nude, and I'm going to tell every adult I know that you're asking me to send these kind of pictures. I'm like, yes. So it was encouraging because...
Oh my goodness. So that's how lipstick
absolutely. So your lipstick's having an ongoing, lasting impression because it doesn't wipe off.
Shelby.
But then
Julia.
These kind of tangible things enable us to go into schools and to other organizations where there are students to help them understand that this is an issue and problem. So, we are not the nerdy internet people who go, hey kids, you got to censor privacy settings, because kids are hearing this almost every day
all day
in
long,
school.
right?
And they're tuning it out. What we found through the presentations we're doing is when we come in and we are talking about, we start out with the issue of, do you guys know that there's slavery still exists in the world today? And if I told you there was a form of slavery in your community and you could help stop it, would you want to be
a part of that?
And they're like, yeah, absolutely. And then I start to unpack for them what the slavery looks like in domestic minor sex trafficking. And I've yet to do a student presentation where we are not finding kids who are vulnerable. And that doesn't matter, Anita, if it's in a Girl Scout troop setting, it doesn't matter if it's in a church setting, private school setting, public school setting, whatever. This is where these students are living. And so we're finding the presentations tragically having big impact, which we're grateful for the impact. It's sad that we need to be talking about this, but we're grateful that we're able to make an impact.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful to be somebody who can be walking alongside of him and just being creative in helping stop this and help educating it, because education is so key. It's so key to be able, and Miranda said, it's so great to hear the difference you have been able to make. It's shocking to hear how prevalent this is for today's youth. And you are right, Miranda, it is so it is very shocking. I was just talking about how that, and I can concur with what you're saying about how grandparents are raising their grandchildren and they don't even know how to run the remote. So how are they going to help combat these issues when their grandchildren are on these smartphones at a young age, and they're, one thing too is we have to develop these really key relationships with youth. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in Christine's story, she and just get this out. This is so cool, and I'm holding in my excitement because I just love what I do.
Don't hold it. I hold.
Well, but see, I sell real estate, and I have been using real estate proceeds to make films, and so me and my husband have been using those a lot of the proceeds. So if you use me as a real estate agent, you know that this is where it's going, or a lot of it is going. Yes, I'm feeding my family, but I'm also bleeding into, and I'm making short films. I've made about 8 or 9 short films now, and the last 2 have been directly trying to educate on the trafficking issue here in the United States, and which is a dangerous profession, which I just finished. It's up for 4 awards next. Four awards, yes. So I'm leaving for Florida on Thursday, and going down to a film festival for that. And so I'm super happy for all those people who purchased a home last year. This is part of it, and this film that I produce is called A Dangerous Profession. It's on a private link, so if anybody of you would like to watch it, you're more than welcome to. I'll send you that information. But it's really truly how I've been bleeding into my life, how to help organizations. And so Russ and some of the other organizations here in town, as well as far out, are wanting to utilize this short film to help educate on what is going on and all this. So thank you all, first of all, for all those real estate clients that are on here watching this or will be watching us, but also too when it comes to the lip color and my entrepreneurship with that and how that bleeds into it. It's so cool, but to educate people. So I get back to this story. Christine, she's a part of our group of, people who are trying to really forge forward and whatever. We're going to work on making a feature-length film about her life story and bleed into it, making it relevant for today, but utilizing her story. And she... I believe it was her, so Christine, if you're watching this and I'm wrong, correct me, but I believe that she was the one that told me that when she was younger and was getting abused and having her whole, life kind of unfold before her in a horrible way, I don't think there were many adults that asked her how she was doing and tried to really engage in her life. So Russ, you are out there every single week almost in these schools, feeding into these children and going to schools assemblies and what have you, and developing some relationships with these kids, even if it is just for a moment where you can feed into them. That relationship can be a life-changing thing and a life-saving thing. Right. Do you get that? I mean, this whole issue is so complex, but very simple. If you can actually boil this entire horrific thing down to 3 words. Okay, what are they? The 3 words are exploitation of vulnerability. And because people ask me all the time, I want to help, what can I do? Well, there's all kinds of things you can do, but if you will simply think through anything I can do to lessen the vulnerability in a child so that they can't be exploited, then I'm doing something to combat this. So your efforts through this product line that you have and proceeds going towards an effort like this, that is helping us to lessen the vulnerability in students as we go and educate and empower them. It is as simple as finding one kid to mentor, whether it's our own child or a friend of a friend, or anything we can do. So this very complex thing, when we simply remember that it is always every single time about exploitation of vulnerability, and anything we can do to lessen the vulnerability for a child to be exploited, we are helping. Mm-hmm. It may not seem very dramatic, but what's happening is that so many students are being lured in through social media, because social media is a safe place, they think, for them to express their desires and their dissatisfactions. So name a couple of apps that some of these predators were. I mean, to be honest with you, I've been overwhelmed because there are so many apps out there that I mean, just so many, and these people are professionals. Yeah, that's what they are not. They are not.
And they are well funded.
They're well funded by the dark, the dark net or whatever. Yeah. But it's just crazy how that there's so many apps, and we think of like the main ones like Facebook. We think of I mean, Facebook has get this. Facebook has a rule where you have to be 16 to get on it. However, there are parents out there that are allowing their children to get on there before even Facebook says it's good. What in the world,
Right.
And then, yeah, you get the private side of it, but I'm telling you what, I've seen this where even if their accounts are private, there comes a point where a child becomes a little less strong in their efforts, and they're going to start accepting friends from people who they don't know. I promise you it's going to happen, because I hear about it over and over and over again. So Facebook is one. Name some others.
Well, and when we educate and empower students about this, one of the things that I do is I teach them a Russ deep thought. And the deep thought is this. I set them up for just this really goofy thought, but it's true. And the thought is this: if you don't know them, you don't know them. And through the process of our presentation, I help students understand how easy it is for a predator to literally copy-paste someone else's identity and become that person online, and you have no clue who you're communicating. So I am constantly having young girls tell me stories about how they think they got into an online relationship through social media with like a 14-year-old boy. And then it turns out it's like some creepy 57-year-old man in Philadelphia, and they have no clue. Increasingly, we are having boys who are being lured in by who they think are really pretty hot girls that are actually men taking online identities. And here's the reason why. So one of the worst apps is the simple app that most people have heard of is Snapchat. Snapchat is the #1 sexting app. That's become the primary purpose. So the reason this is so popular with them is because they think, because it's advertised, that on Snapchat your image once posted disappears after 6 seconds. Okay, now that's in part true. It may disappear from your device, but the person on the other end can easily screenshot that and save that in files. And in reality, we know nothing online is ever really gone. So now there's an entire industry called snap porn and revenge porn, where there's so many, literally tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of images are available through people who have taken pictures, think it's disappeared, but it's still out there. And so it's not that difficult for tech-savvy people to now take that image and create their own identity. Or use it to cyberbully someone else. I was recently in an elementary school where a 12-year-old girl was using an app called Omegle. Most people, a lot of adults haven't heard of Omegle. Omegle is a video chat app. So get the reality of this. This 12-year-old girl at the end of an assembly tells me, "Oh, Russ, you don't have to worry about me because I'm using Omegle." She's 12. She says, "I pretend like I'm 16, put on a lot of my mom's makeup, and low-cut shirt, and pretend like I'm 16 and communicate with men. So don't worry about me." Okay, so the logic in that the logic in that just doesn't, right? So as an adult, but one of the things that I talk to students about is we talk about neuroscientists. Okay, so neuroscientists are people who study the brain. So they tell us that the average human brain is not fully developed until we're in our mid to late 20s. So on average, it's about 219,000 hours for the adult brain to be fully developed. I'm talking to 6th graders. So one of the fun things I do in assembly is to turn your neighbor and tell them you're just a half brain, because most of them are like 105,000 hours. Well, they love that, right? Because it's not like a derogatory thing. It's just like, you're not me and being. It's the science, right? So you're half brain. So when a kid says, "Nobody understands me," you don't get me. Okay, and our own kids say that you don't understand me.
Right.
The teachers don't get me. Okay, so now take that mentality, and then they go on social media because right now nobody understands me, and I'm 12. But I'm going to go on to Omegle or Kick Messenger or Snapchat or Instagram or Facebook or Tinder or all these, or Musical.ly, and I'm going to share my life. I'm going to put my desires and my dissatisfactions out there because you don't understand me right now because you're an adult. But there is this person, we think, we don't know who they are. Remember, you don't know them, you don't know them. They're on the other end of social media, and well, I understand you. I think you're amazing, and I understand you. And oh, by the way, you have such pretty eyes, and you got such a great smile, and I think you're so talented. And then I watch as the progression of these online social media relationships. And here's more logic. A kid will tell me last week, said, "Well, I said, I do know them. I said, how do you know? Have you met them? No, I've never met them in person, but we've communicated back and forth almost 8,000 times.
Wow.
So they think they know them, right? So the challenge is in these worst case scenarios where kids are being lured through social media and they meet that complete stranger in person. Horrific things are happening to these kids.
Tell us about the. Okay, so you said earlier that you have now met almost 20,000.
We're closing in on talking to 20,000 students.
That's just here
Just
in
here
the
in Kansas
Kansas City area. So there's 20,000 kids that you have met. And hi, September. September is she's just joining. She's at the table next to us.
Pay attention to your own meeting, September. You're like 10 feet away.
She's so funny. But yes, September's amazing. Okay, so you have met with almost 20,000 students through assemblies and presentations here in Kansas City area. And you have all of these students take a survey, questionnaire, and it has 5 questions on that survey.
Yep.
Tell us about those questions and the 2 questions that have surprisingly, they've answered yes to these questions. And we're talking about any type of school. We're not talking about just public school. We're talking about Christian school, Catholic school,
same
public
surveys in
school,
churches and a student ministry.
churches,
exact same survey.
all of it. Across the board, it does not matter your faith, where your background is, whatever. Across the board, these same 5 questions. So tell us about these questions and statistically how many of these percentage-wise have answered yes.
Sure. So the important part of the survey is, to back up just a little bit, is to understand that UMKC did a complete program and presentation evaluation, because when you go into public schools, you have to make sure you're evidence-based, right? Because otherwise you're just coming in and you're just throwing stuff out and telling stories and what was this really happening? Who really knows? Who do we believe?
Right.
Okay, so that's why we're very, very careful about who we allow to be Aware KC presenters, because we want to make sure everybody's saying the same thing within our own personality and things. So then we asked UMKC to help us develop, and this was in cooperation with one of our other Kansas City Street Hope board members, Allison Phillips, and so she was instrumental in helping with this, and so we developed this very simple survey, and it's on paper, so it's not like an online thing, and kids at the end of an assembly just check boxes. So what we're finding from those is we wanted to identify what are the 2 primary areas that we can identify as a pattern of domestic minor sex trafficking, of when a kid is lured through social media into the worst case scenario. What are the common denominators? And the common denominators every single time are they end up meeting someone in person
who they didn't know before,
who they probably didn't know before, after engaging in very sexual content. Okay, typically images and words and increasingly now cyber sexual activities. Okay, this is becoming the next thing. So therefore, your apps, even like Periscope, which is a Twitter app. Okay, so anything that's a live video stream, like what we're doing right now. Anything that is a live video streaming app now is being used in these really difficult situations. It's hard for us as adults to wrap our minds around how in the world can a kid be doing that, engaged in this kind of activity with someone else online. And this is the next step beyond the sexting, taking images and passing them along. It is now become even more interactive. Of kids actually engaging in through live video. Okay, which is a terrifying thought, right? So what we have found is right now for this year, we're sitting at right at about 31% of the students that we've talked to have indicated, I have met a complete stranger in person I first met online and or am actively sending news. Now the encouraging part of the 31%.
31%.
Do the math. But then the encouraging part of that is the second part of the survey indicates, okay, you've done this in the past. Now that you've heard the presentation, are you likely to do this again in the future? Okay, and the encouraging numbers, and we don't have all the statistics yet because we can break it down to boys and girls and age and all the different activities. So it gets a little bit complicated. We rely on computer software to run all that through. We don't have those hard numbers yet, but the numbers are very encouraging. Where we're cutting it at least by 75% of the kids who have said, "I've done these things."
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm cutting it at least by 70% of what I would not do that again.
So I've got a calculator.
And that's only in typically that's like in one presentation. Where we're having the biggest success is now as we're having repeats in schools, so they're having us come in every year. Therefore, the student of the little girl I told you earlier about the lipstick, she heard me tell a story of another girl the year before, and now here's what she did. So she's engaged. So she didn't even send the picture.
Which is what your gift
That's what your
of
gift
this last month has helped. Yeah, so let's just go over the numbers. So you have met with about 20,000 students here in the Kansas City area, and this is not colleges yet. This is not even dealing with the numbers of colleges.
Junior high, and high school.
You know, like Veronica Clay, she just joined. Hi, Veronica. Veronica is a college student. She's 18, has an amazing story, which I want to talk about later, in another broadcast sometime, Veronica, so we got to hook up. But you've met with 20,000 students right here in the Kansas City metropolitan area that you've done almost 20,000. So out of that, 31% of all of those students who have filled out a survey, 31% have either sent nudes or they have met someone online and met them in person that they did not know before, and how dangerous that is. Well, after Russ goes in,
and close to half that number have done both.
So half of that number. So we're talking
about half, almost half.
So we're talking 6,200 students. I just did the math. 20%, 20,000. So we're talking 31% of that is 6,200 students right here in the metropolitan area have done one or the other. Half of that, which is 3,100 students in the Kansas City metropolitan area, have done both. Crazy. So what is even cooler, though...
And remember, if it's all about the exploitation of vulnerability, those activities make those students very vulnerable.
Right.
And we already know that demand is high. So that's why it's so dangerous and so scary, why it's so important to educate and empower students about this issue.
About this issue, which is all about... I love your organization and how it's going out and educating, because, if you don't have parents at home, if you don't have people like my age, or if you've got the grandparents who just don't know about these dangers, or these students hear all the time, stay away from this, stay away from this, stay away from this, and they're learning it on their own, who is out there being a voice? Who is out there being wise and teaching them how to be wise on social media? Who is out there developing relationships with the vulnerable children that are here in Kansas City and beyond? Who is out there doing these? And even if you could stop with one kid, that one kid will have a voice and hopefully be able to impact more children exponentially from that standpoint. And so with those numbers, you've got 6,200 who have done one or the other, 3,100 who have done both right here in your neighborhood, whatever. So this is crazy. But since you've gone back, you've been able to get at least some soft numbers on how that has cut it in half.
So the elementary school where the girl told me that she was 12 and she was on Omegle, pretending like she was 16. She was 6th grade last year, or 5th grade last year. This year we went back to the same school, and what we found was that the 5th graders last year who heard the presentation, and last year we only had 17 minutes to do the presentation. This year we had 50 minutes.
So the schools are beginning to get more savvy.
They're understanding. They're not scared of it anymore because they're understanding that this is real life where kids are living. So we went back to the same school. So the numbers from the 5th grade students last year who did the presentation, taking the survey, when we went back to the same school, had a longer presentation, same survey. Now they filled it out as 6th graders. The level of activity of students was noticeably lower in 6th grade than 5th grade in that school. And the 5th graders, that was the first time they heard the presentation.
So it's working.
Does that make sense? So we're 2 years now into this locally, and just now starting. And so this week, like I said, I'll spend all those days in a local high school, second year in a row, and it's going to be fascinating to see the impact from last year to this year.
And hopefully some of those students that heard you last year will come back and say, hey, I made some wise choices, or whatever, it's just so much about relationship and consistency as we as adults, are forging forward and really trying to save our culture. Yeah. We're trying to save the next generation's culture.
And that's an important point that you made, because in the big picture of what we would call the abolition movement, to try to help end sex trafficking, the movement as a whole has changed in the last few years from being program-driven to being relationship driven.
Absolutely.
And it's based on trusted relationships. So that's happening from an organizational structure, organizations that trust each other, work together. There's tremendous collaboration happening. And so it's no longer just, hey, I've got a great program, be part of it. It is now much more impactful and effective based on the relationship aspect, which is really rewarding.
Yeah. Shelby just said, remind us of how much it costs each time you do a presentation, so we can talk about kind of your level. Anita's Lips and Beauty Tips, we were able to, through your purchases, we were able to give $250.
Thank you.
Which
So
gets
awesome.
him into the school, which gets him started. But you've got some programs that are, a lot more elaborate than what $250. So let's go into kind of what you do and what all of these.
Yeah.
programs
So we actually do presentations for professionals on various levels. So like mental health counselors, we do a lot of presentations for that. We do education for healthcare professionals. The reason being, so healthcare professionals are on the front lines of being in immediate contact with sex trafficking victims, and they don't even know it most of the time. So the Annals of Health Law did a study where they found that 87% of sex trafficking victims have been in the immediate care of the healthcare professional while being trafficked. And if they didn't know the signs to look for, so I've done a lot of presentations where nurses, doctors, whatever, just tears in their eyes, sitting back going, I missed this. And so it's now, okay, but see, that's where good people can't do anything about this unless they know it exists. Therefore, the awareness education piece. So once they're educated and empowered, they can make a difference. Also, law enforcement. So we're doing law enforcement training because law enforcement professionals on the front line of this. I recently did a 2-day law enforcement training for one of our local police departments, and did a training on a Friday, and went back the following week on a Thursday morning, because obviously you don't train the entire police department. Somebody has to be out there on the streets working, right? And so on the Wednesday evening, before I came back on the Thursday morning, one of the officers who'd gone through the training on the Friday before encountered a situation where previously, without the training, they became aware that a young girl, minor age girl, was using an adult dating hookup app, mostly for sexual purposes, called Tinder. Okay, so this young girl was putting her desires, exploitation, vulnerability, life is bad at home, puts her desires and dissatisfactions online through a social media app of Tinder, designed for adults. She's an underage minor. There's no age restrictions. Connects with a 21-year-old guy, have this amazing relationship, and so they decide they're going to meet finally in person after sharing all this stuff back and forth, right? Everything inappropriate, and so he is now in a park, hurting this young girl in the worst way possible. And because of training that the law enforcement officers had just gone through, they realized, as bad as this is, this goes beyond a male raping a child in the park. This is, in the business sense of domestic minor sex trafficking, a man who is testing his product to then sell online because demand is high.
Yes. Okay, so let's just talk about what you just said.
Yeah,
which
unpack that, right?
Demand. Okay. You know, it's amazing. One of the things that I love about Russ is he is a male figure, a male voice in this industry.
He does not wear lipstick.
He does not. But, however, I'm just saying.
I've heard you have other products.
I have other products. But, you know what? I really found this, that I'm just saying, this is so funny. You're gonna laugh because there's a long-lasting lip color called Icicle, and it is, you would think, what in the world? But there is men out there who use this long-lasting lip color because their lips are so dry, and they put a matte gloss on it, so it's not even glossy, and you can't even tell. There's military people who are using it out in the field. So if you're a man out there, or you know a man that has really dry lips and might not necessarily be opposed to it, I'm just saying. Okay, so go back.
We digress.
We digress so much,
but for
don't
an
we?
important purpose, I'm sure.
It is an important, lasting lip color, helping lasting impressions.
I'm telling you, it's perfect. I love it. It's all good.
We might have to get him. How many of you would like to see him try the Icicle with the matte gloss? I'm just saying. If you do, you got to comment.
Nobody responded to you.
Nobody's responding.
No responses.
You guys, ladies, help me
cover
out.
that up down there.
Help me out. Yeah, so, okay, if you've joined, hi, Misty. If you've joined, Misty is a social worker here in town. Misty's
She's on the front
amazing. She's on the front lines.
Thank you, Misty, for
She's
everything you're
dealing with this stuff. Yes, I got a yes for you to try the Icicle with the matte gloss, so there we go.
Miranda.
No. Don't say no yet. You never say never. But yeah, Misty, she's an actress friend of mine too, and is out there on the front lines. I mean, incredible work, and she's got her own social office. I don't know if I'm saying that right, Misty, but you've got your own office out there. So she's on the front lines helping broken people. So if you've joined late, do a tutorial, please. Miranda would like for you to do a tutorial on Icicle with matte gloss.
Yeah,
I think that is a fabulous idea.
Yeah, we'll schedule that.
You're joining in on my mission for making long-lasting lip color,
I think my calendar. Oh, look at that! My calendar is clear in
totally
2047.
Totally Miranda, we might have to twist his arm. Okay, so if you've joined late, I'm sitting here with Russ Tuttle. Russ runs a program called Aware KC. It's and so we're talking about demand right now, and demand in the sex trafficking industry. And so that, we've talked a little bit in this. You have to start the whole project, this whole video over, and watch the whole thing if you've joined late, because we're such a wealth of information. But demand is an issue. Demand is a huge issue, and it starts with men.
Yeah.
And so we as ladies out here forging, with, you just met September and her friend looks like they've got another person joining them over there at the table. There's a lot of women out here in forging forth and trying to save our kids. We have a very huge heart for saving our kids. Where are the men, and why don't they stand up more? And not that they're not, but it just seems like a lot of the abolitionists out there are women.
Right.
But with that being said, it starts with the men. So, one, how can parents teach their boys? How can we be wise and teach our boys, to treat women with respect, and that this is not okay? But also, to the demand. When you talk about the demand is high, what does that mean? Like, how do you know that the demand is high?
Well, so we know demand is high through that scientific study I named earlier. Okay, so that's the evidence base. That's the hard facts. Okay, so through their online research, they found that 14.5% of the male population over the age of 18 in Kansas City was online looking to purchase sex. That represents almost 107,000 men. So it's not rocket science to figure out. So men have created this problem, and men can be the solution. How do we end domestic matter sex trafficking? It's simple. Mostly men quit paying to rape children. I mean, that's what it is. Now, tragically, it's not that simple because of the role that pornography is now playing in culture that has been completely accepted and normalized. Every person, including me, including you, every person on the planet is either targeted, baited, or trapped by porn.
Targeted, baited, or trapped.
Every single one of us. Okay, so that can be as simple as the soft porn that your 7-year-old son may see when you're standing in the grocery line trying to check out by the magazines that are
or going to the mall and looking at Victoria's Secret's magazine
everything
ads on the window.
Right. So experts that I rely on who do research in the areas of pornography and things like this, they are telling us now that the average age of first-time exposure to porn in America is now age 8 and 9. Now, most 8 and 9-year-olds don't even know to go looking, but that's where the industry is targeting, baiting, and trapping. Okay, so now, as you said, an 8-year-old comes home with an iPhone.
Yeah.
Okay, so I call the smartphones the largest brothel in America because you can literally use various apps and websites to literally order. If you are a deviant, your sexually desired preference, like you're ordering a pizza. I mean, Anita, it really is. You have that option.
Yeah,
you have that
because there are
option.
websites that these people go on, and you can
Absolutely.
order. I want a young girl who's got blonde hair.
Right. So then you unpack that further, and the experts tell us that 1 in 5 images of pornography online is of a child, so someone under the age of 18. Okay. So now we're seeing demand is high. And how in the world can we come to a place where there are over 106,000 men in our community willing to purchase to hurt a child? Well, if there is an addiction to porn, which an addiction to porn is the same release, so the same neuroscientists I talked about earlier where I tease kids that you're half brains, okay, those same neuroscientists have actually done scientific studies of the brain where they have compared brain studies of people addicted to heroin, addicted to cocaine, and they found that people with severe addictions to pornography have the same chemical imbalances of the brain as the release of heroin and cocaine at the same time. So the continual dopamine release requiring a level of increase, and it is not a dopamine release of I used to watch porn for 20 minutes, now I've got to watch it for an hour. It is now increasingly degrading types of porn.
Because that shortened doesn't satisfy them anymore.
That's right. So then the desensitivity level finally reaches a point to where a man will say, I am now going to actually get on and I will now purchase a kid.
Right.
Because they become completely desensitized. And what's happening is so many men are living in shame, they're living in denial, they're living in fear, and you cannot shame a man out of an addiction. This is an addiction no different than if you said to a person on heroin, get off heroin, what's wrong with you? You're an idiot. It's an addiction, and so we have so many men who are now facing the same level of addiction, and requires intense help, intense honesty, intense therapy from a spiritual perspective, intense prayer, intense efforts to help them. But shaming will not work. And so part of the reason why so many men, now to answer your question, why aren't more men involved? I'm convinced more men aren't involved because I think maybe a man's made a mistake in his past 20 years ago and feels unworthy to do anything about combating this effort. And they've got to overcome that. We have men who are currently in the battle struggling with something like this, and so they go, "There's no, I'm a hypocrite. I can't do this."
There's no redemption in
That's it.
it.
That's it. And so I say this all the time. We need better men, and we need good men to be better.
I love that.
I
I've heard you say that before,
heart.
and I love that.
And I believe we need better men, and we need good men to be
Erica
better.
Wilson's on here.
Hi, Erica.
She said hi, Red.
And so that becomes such a priority. So when we're dealing with demand, like in 2 weeks on a Saturday morning, I'm going into a large church in our community, and I'm doing a presentation I call for men only. And we will unpack the reality of the criminal element of those who are hurting our kids. We will unpack the tragedies that kids are forced into. I will unpack briefly the role that social media plays, but then I will play into their lives in a compassionate yet firm way as a man speaking to men. Okay, that until and unless you, and these are men in a church. Okay. So for us to think that men in churches are not struggling with porn is absolutely ludicrous, right? So we have to be honest about this, and if we want to really truly address this issue, men speaking to men firmly but with compassion, and not shaming men but appealing to the hero in a man to step up and be better is one of the ways. Because how is a man who's struggling with an addiction going to be able to help his young son who may be in that stage of just simply being baited by porn?
Yeah.
Right. So it's fascinating because one of the things I've noticed just in the last 2 years, part of the school presentation I do, there's a particular video that we show where a young girl is being asked to send that hot pic or that nude by a boy. And so in a simulation process, it shows how this girl finally gives into his coercion, shows this, and there's 4 boys in the bleachers sitting, and the boy who asked for the picture gets the picture, and he's got a dilemma now. Do I show my friends? And so what happens is he shows his friends. The friends say, you have to send it to me, and then it watches the whole thing goes viral until her little brother actually sees the picture, as does her mom, as does a predator online. So every time I go, I've noticed an increased aggression in boys in assemblies. 2 weeks ago, I literally, in a 6th grade assembly and an 8th grade assembly, had boys call out verbally. And there was a couple hundred kids in each assembly. Verbally call out what they would like to do to that girl in a sexual manner.
Like there's no
6th grade
shame.
And 8th, none.
There's no.
So there was a. This was not our survey. There was a national survey surveying students, and they were trying to determine what is the greater moral wrong. Is it worse to view pornography, or is it worse to not recycle? And the greater moral wrong, clearly, in their minds, was to not recycle. Viewing porn was no big deal. So experts who study this issue, they now tell us this current generation is likely going to be the first generation raised to understand all of their interpersonal relationships, majority taught through porn. So parents have abdicated that leadership role. Churches have abdicated that leadership role. It's not the responsibility of schools, yet schools are trying to step up in this. And so again, it all comes back to the 3 words: exploitation of vulnerability. It is always, every single time, about the exploitation of vulnerability. So if it comes to dealing with a husband who's got an addiction to porn and it's impacting the marriage, I mean, it becomes a vulnerability to be exploited. Ultimately, he's going to hurt someone else because there is no victimless crime in this area. It doesn't exist.
Wow.
So anything and everything we can do to combat the vulnerability so someone can't be exploited is doing part of it.
Yeah. If you have any questions at all for Russ, because it is such an honor to be sitting with you, Russ. You sit on panels, like I said. You go in and you talk to a lot of professionals about this. So now's your chance to get a question for Russ if you have anything. But how much are your fees?
We don't charge anything. We're nonprofit, ministry based.
He's nonprofit ministry based.
We just try to cover our costs.
His costs start at $250,
yeah.
And then they go up depending on what he provides for the school assemblies. So we were able to provide his first level cost at $250.
Thank you so much. We'll actually use this week.
Yay.
We take in bookmarks and we take in surveys.
So you buy product and give it to him and pass it out.
And in reality, the time level of a so let's just take this Friday. I'll leave the house at 7. I'll get home. I'll probably get home at 4. There'll be 5 90-minute presentations. The presentations are the easy part. Okay, it is the hours spent afterwards, which can sometimes take weeks, that overlap from presentation to presentation, because I'm dealing with situations now from presentations from a month ago.
Wow.
To where you have to follow up, and when I say everybody, you have to know when to hand off to the other lane. So maybe this now becomes a cybercrimes issue. That's not my lane. Maybe now we get mental health professional involved, not my lane. Maybe there's healthcare needs, not my lane. Maybe there's social services needs, not my lane. Maybe there's professional. I mean, on and on this thing goes, right? So the actual presentation is the easy part.
And another thing too is that, like you mentioned, you don't charge. There is a cost involved.
Sure.
And so this cost, and I will tell you, the schools don't have the funds. They really don't. They want him to come in, but it's you and me that's getting Russ into the schools.
So I'm supposed to be in Wichita right now. groups doing school assemblies. And last Monday, the principal chickened out and canceled it, even though we were coming for nothing. Got very scared or worried of what parents might say if he brought in a presentation. And so we're going to deal with sex trafficking and the role that social media plays.
Wow. So let's talk about some tangible things that the ladies here can do besides,
Besides having me do a tutorial for lipstick, really?
I think it's a great idea. And if you joined late, you have to watch the whole.
No, Erica, right now,
just
type
say
no,
yes.
Russ, don't
just
do
say
it.
yes, Erica. You'd be our second yes. So
No,
if you're a
Erica.
lady, you got to watch the video to find out how what we're talking about. But there's some tangible things, some very small things that you and me and your friends can do to help get the word out and to help educate and to be building relationships with that. So let's kind of talk about some of those things and what you can do. So this last month, those who ordered from me helped me give, and you in return got product that was a win-win. So that was one thing, and those kinds of things will be forging forward. I mean, I talked about Christine's feature film that we're all going to be working on. I'm going to be working on that, and a lot of my real estate my real estate proceeds and my lip color proceeds and all of that, I'm going to start bleeding in, and we're going to start trying to forge forward the foundation for creating a feature film. So that that part, your small gift can help, or your small purchase can help go towards something. But so I made a list while you were talking. One thing is this program that you're doing for men only. So this is an organization. Bye guys. Bye guys. This program is called For Men Only. Tell us, is this a public event that the ladies can talk about?
Yep.
Hi Michelle.
It's on. It is at Central.
Let's talk about that.
Let me look at my calendar. So the one for men only is on Saturday morning, May 13th, and it is at from 8 until 9:30 a.m.
Okay.
at Central Nazarene Church,
Okay.
which is at 12600 West 87th Street Parkway in Lenexa. And they are welcome to attend that.
Is it free?
It is free.
Okay.
Yep.
All
And
right.
we do law enforcement trainings, we do mental health, all the other trainings that we do. I would say the primary thing that you all can do to help with something tangibly, besides writing the checks and giving the dollars, which is always needed, is to do everything you can to utilize your network to open more doors of opportunities where we can share presentations.
Well, I was going to mention that too, because I know a principal right now. You guys, which is another thing. If you know of a teacher or a principal especially, share this product and try and get Russ in the schools. Try and get him into the schools where, hey Lori, try and get him into the schools to where this program and these things can begin to be educated on that. So is there a website that they can go to?
awarekc.org.
Okay, so go to awarekc.org.
And you can email us directly through there. One of the most effective things that we're doing outside schools and we do in churches is what we do called a dual track presentation. And in dual track presentations, typically it happens in a church where they have us come on the night or the morning where they have their student ministry already meeting. And so we'll have one presenter speak to the students, and at the same time we'll have what we call caring adults, because that could be a parent, that could be a foster parent, that could be a grandparent, could be an aunt, uncle, whoever, in the same facility at the same time with separate presentations just for the adults. And then we bring the two groups together at the very end for a really powerful moment where we want to make sure the kids understand that the adults in that church community are on their team. They're not against them, but we don't hate them. We don't hate social media. We don't hate the internet. We're not taking away from them. But we do our presentation in such a way that we help our students understand that social media can be something that can be utilized in proper ways, but that there's a very dark side to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we want to warn them against that, and then help them understand that, listen, we're a team in this. As caring adults and as students, we're a team in this. And so that's really one of the most, it's been one of the best ways to provide interaction with adults and students at the same time. A lot of times, several schools have had us do presentations for parents before or after student presentations. Tragically, very few parents show up.
Yeah, I heard you talking about
Very
that once.
few.
You did a big, huge
Yeah.
presentation, and then had the parents come in that night
Yeah.
to share. And how many were there? Like
Less than 20.
less than 20.
Yeah, in a
I
school
mean,
of like
amazing.
800 kids.
It's that kind of stuff is so crazy. So, sharing and getting the word out there, because all it is just educating. And I love the word wise. I've been trying to really get that word into my spirit. I want to be wise.
Wisdom, yeah.
And so educating them and having them be wise in using their utilization of social media
Yeah.
is so important. And so you as ladies right now who are watching my Anita Lips and Beauty Tips live video here with Russ, can share this, and we can all join together as a team to create a wise culture that's growing up underneath of us. So definitely try and get, so if you know of any principals, if you're a part of a school board, or you have a friend who's a part of a school board, anybody like that who's connected to a school system can
Yeah.
get Russ into the school system.
And if they need a conversational starter, go to awarekc.org, and on the front homepage there's a really short video that you can utilize. It's less than 2 minutes long. It can be the perfect little elevator speech starter, and it outlines all the things we talked about. It outlines the exploitation of vulnerability. So there's dialogue you hear in the background of all these voices talking to this little 12-year-old girl.
Wow.
And it's everything from parents to a friend to a teacher, and all these voices. And there's not a lot of negativity, but just enough for a 12-year-old girl that it all just kind of builds up.
Yeah.
So then
Wow.
she shares her desires and dissatisfactions online through social media, and the video kind of unpacks that, and it helps people understand that this really is an issue that we're dealing with and struggling with.
Wow, yeah. So those are some tangible things. It's those relationships that you have in the
Yeah.
school system, getting people out there. You can always look for sponsorships with, for Russ and getting him into the schools. You can point people to this For Men Only event that you can't, point your man in your life to this event. That's another tangible thing. We're all going to hopefully be joining forces to get a feature-length film created on a lady who is our friend, and she is going to be kind of part of who we're coming along with to get her story involved with that, and so we've got funds to raise for that. So that's where it'll be falling underneath of an umbrella called the I Will Rise Project. So you can go to the Facebook page, the I Will Rise Project, and like it. I'm selling shirts for $20 that say I Will Rise, so you can do your part and get the word out that we're all in this together as a team. Let's see, what else? Big thing. I mean, if you guys don't have any funds and you don't know anybody in a school system, you don't know a principal who can make a decision, a click of the button. When this video goes live, when this video is able to be shared, share this video. All right? So, share the video. Looks like our storage is almost full on my iPad. So, so thank you for coming.
Thank you, Anita.
Russ.
Appreciate everything you're
Thank
doing.
you all for
Thank you, ladies, for buying the product. And Anita, thank you for the donation. It's going to help. It's going to be great.
Yeah, and just keep in tune, share this video, get the word out, and thank you guys for joining us live today. And thank you, Russ, again, for all that you do.
You too.
And we're here cheering you on. Okay, guys?
Thank you.
So thank you, guys, and I'm going to turn off now, and we will check you out another time.
Keep buying more products.
I'll talk to you later.